what happened from there? So you're this broken, early 30s successful entrepreneur. You've likely been passed around to specialists. You've tried everything.
Yeah.
You're now aware of your health, and you've dabbled in a couple of these things, whether it's meditation. But then walk me through kind of like what happens next. It's usually like inspiration or desperation, right? You get so desperate or you're inspired by something. Like what happened to you?
Yeah. For me, I realized the more alone time I had, the more time in nature, the more things like that was beneficial for me. Even though I had a family and I had children, like I needed it to actually just heal my
Mm,
body, and I knew it intuitively. And I had learned, I had started teaching myself Ayurveda, and I started actually filming a documentary on Ayurveda. And I was using it because I knew something was wrong with my gut, because I just feel it in my gut, like something is not
mm,
right in there. And I was using Ayurveda along the way, kind of just hoping it would work. And I saw a little bit of benefit, but I'd still go through these swings, you know?
right, right.
So Ayurveda was great to help me manage what was going on. It didn't really resolve it, but it was probably 4 or 5 years later. Again, I was still going to doctors, getting tests, and at some point, I gave up and I went to. I went all over the world, to be honest with you. I went to China to find maybe a shaman or someone who can help me there. I went to India. I went to Peru and spent 10 days in the jungle with ayahuasca. I went all around the world searching for a solution.
So, I mean,
And
real quick before you keep going, what is Ayurveda for those people that don't understand what that modality is? Can you
yeah,
talk just quickly about what that actually is?
yeah. So Ayurveda is an ancient healing science from India. It's thousands of years old. It's still being used in India, and so it's one of the oldest documented medicinal systems in the world.
Wow.
And they have recommendations and recipes and all kinds of medicinal herbs and lifestyle changes for people who have autoimmune type conditions, diabetes, cancers, heart diseases, cancers, things like that. And
Got
this
it.
is thousands of years ago, and it still is proven to work. It just
Amazing.
hasn't hit mainstream yet. It's been, a lot of it has been suppressed, a lot of it has been hidden, and it just hasn't made it out. It's been considered a pseudoscience, but now science is proving that it's real. Like turmeric, everyone's like, turmeric, wow, like that comes from
Right.
Ayurveda.
Right.
Ashwagandha comes from Ayurveda. Holy basil comes from Ayurveda. So
Right. Right.
um, we're now discovering that these plants have intelligence, and the food we eat has intelligence that talks to our body.
Mm,
And all of us have a certain constitution, and that constitution, it's basically marrying what's going on inside with the external world.
right.
And that's really how you're supposed to eat. And once I started doing that, I started noticing a difference. And
I want
also just I'm Indian myself, so like my parents, they don't know Ayurveda. They would just, like, when I was younger, they just be like, "Here's a spoon of this," and my grandma told me this, so
right.
just take it. And
Right.
so
Right. Right.
I needed to understand it for myself to see if it was going to actually fix me, and it made a lot of sense the way that they thought about science.
I'm curious to know how quickly you noticed a difference. I mean, you sounded pretty beaten up in terms of being pretty bad. Like, how long after you began to adopt these principles did you like say, wait a minute, I'm feeling something different?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, flash forward to just 4 years ago in
Mhm.
2018, I took a random genetic test, and it I got the results back, and it was one of those with the doctor. It's kind of not, it's not through a healthcare company itself, but it's like through a private doctor, and
Yep.
they're going through everything, and it shows you your epigenetics, or how likely you are to maybe contract a disease, basically heart disease or diabetes or thyroid or whatever
Sure.
kind of runs in your genetics. And she's going through everything, and then she sees celiac. And
Mm,
celiac had a 5.6x likely to have it, versus heart disease and all these like 1.4, 1.5. And I was like, okay, it runs in
wow.
my family, so I have a slightly elevated risk. So this is the point where everything changed in my life.
Huh.
So it was a genetic test that actually showed me I have celiac disease. I stopped eating gluten, and within 60 days, I felt like a brand new human being, brand new
That's
human being.
that's remarkable to me that for somebody who had suffered that long and like you said, had been to I think you mentioned 8 specialists over, sounds like over a decade,
Over
that
a decade, yes.
over that period of 10 years of suffering, there wasn't one specialist that said, "Boy, I'm just curious. Why don't we run this test?" And maybe the answer is they didn't have that test, but my guess is they might have 10
They
years
did.
ago.
They did,
But
yeah.
like, but that just is incredible to me that a simple test, I mean, the marrying of genetics and modern day science
Exactly.
and ancient wisdom, but it's remarkable to me that you suffered for 10 years and the conceivably the best of the best couldn't figure that out. Like, that's amazing to me. Is that, I'm curious, I mean, this is a bit of a side note, is that lack of education? Is it lack of training? Is it lack of time? I mean, these doctors are hammered
Yeah,
to go see
yeah.
patients every 5 minutes and seconds. But why why do you think that happened?
You know, I I can't really blame the doctors, unfortunately. I think it's more about the system.
Mm,
After doing a lot of research, and after I was diagnosed and I stopped eating the gluten, it wasn't just that, but I used Ayurveda to heal my gut and to heal. I had ulcers, like a whole entire tract of ulcers, and I had to heal all those ulcers and reverse all this chronic damage that was done to my gut. And I use Ayurveda to do that, but I use modern science to kind of reveal it. But then these specialists couldn't do any of the like. I mean, I had them tell me to my face I wasn't allergic to gluten, right? So, and that's what's crazy. So it's like I can't blame the doctors. I don't think I have to blame the system that they're brought up in. The medical
sure,
school system doesn't spend a lot of time on plants and herbs and lifestyle. They don't teach you
100%.
to tell someone to stop drinking soda. They don't teach you to tell someone to stop, to get some better sleep, turn off the TV at night, stop
Right,
watching the news. They
right,
don't tell people this. And so it's some of these little hacks that you can make in your life that will actually just increase your health just by these little hacks. Instead, they're taught, oh, slightly elevated stress, give them this pill. Oh,
absolutely,
your
absolutely,
nose has been stuffy for the last
totally,
7 years. Well, maybe we should just rip something out of there, so
totally,
it flows better. And so there's no understanding of the root cause of
right,
what the issue is.
right,
Like, again, Western medicine is good. Like, if you get hit by a car, go to
totally,
the hospital, go to a trauma center, get the help you need to get.
100%, 100%.
But if you're suffering from something that you don't know what it is, Western medical system will have a very hard time telling you what it is unless it's done through a
Absolutely,
very scientific process or using an Eastern medical type of system to diagnose and reverse engineer what it is.
mm,
Sometimes when you're in pain, there's nowhere to go but just rest in the pain.
right,
Uh,
right, right, right,
and so that is the only place of rest. There is no rest. It's in the pain itself is the rest, right? And it's so
right,
there's so many lessons just in that
right.
alone, and it's just like, wow, like if I can get past this, I can get past anything. Another thing I'll mention is I also did Vipassana, um,
Yes.
which is a 10-day silent retreat with 10 hours of meditation per day. Even while you're in your room, it's more like 15, 20, like 15 hours of meditation per day. So in 10 days, I clocked 150 hours of meditation
Amazing.
without saying a word to anybody. And that was also very profound realizations that were just like, oh, wow, like it just was a huge shift for me personally. And it brought me closer to my health, brought me closer to me and the spiritual side of myself, which was interesting enough because my celiac had done so much damage to my intestinal lining that I couldn't tolerate other foods too. So like dairy
Wow.
was out of the question. Um, Dairy was out of the question. Caffeine, specifically in coffee, was out of the question, and alcohol was out of the question. And it was through these modalities and through these kind of experiences that I was just like, oh my god, maybe this isn't right for me. And so
Mm,
I intuitively would start removing these things. And Ayurveda, yes, is a guide and it's a tool, and it really helped me heal. It was kind of these other things along the way that also kind of gave me pieces to the puzzle, not just to my health, but overall as a being, as a human being. You know.
amazing. No, I love your story because you so eloquently talked about the integration of these ancient wisdoms with modern day technology. It was the battery of tests. And I did the same thing recently and I found that I had elevated lead. And I'm like, I'm not around lead and do I have lead in my pipes? But I would never have known that had I taken this battery of, tests and blood and stool and everything, right? And but I love what you say, because I think in my mind that is becoming the answer. It's not a one or the other thing. It doesn't have to be you buy into Western medicine, you buy into Ayurveda. It's
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
you can do both, and it's the
Yeah,
integration of all of it. So
yeah,
so where are you today? Like
100%.
you've gone through this incredible journey. Like what is your overall message or philosophy, or how has that crafted what you believe today?
You know, I think pain is unnecessary.
Mm,
And one of the biggest things from Ayurveda that I've learned is treat. They don't always treat just what's going on in the physical body, yes, but the number one thing they treat is happiness.
ah,
And that's what they go after is what's going to make you happy. And
mm, mm,
fixing those things actually end up fixing the body as well. So it's not just the physical side, but treating happiness as well, and treating it as its own thing that we're going to actually treat and cure and help.